Hello and welcome back to River Online. My name's Adam and it's fantastic to be here with you all. I hope you've had a fantastic couple of weeks and you're ready for this evening's programme. We have another great one ahead. So this week we've got a fantastic topic and we have a video to introduce this. While you watch this video, why don't you think about who is being described? Let's roll it. Over the years, this person has been portrayed as a white male, depicted with blue eyes, long flowing hair, sometimes even blonde in colour. White robes and sandals as standard. Artwork has even depicted him carrying the flag of St. George, and in stained glass windows, he's nearly always got a glowing appearance. I'm sure you have a pretty good idea of who I'm describing, but is this depiction a true representation of what this man really looks like? So, who was being described there? It could be a little confusing. The person being described, we don't actually have any photos of. And although he does have his own page on Wikipedia, his profile picture is a bit dated. And when I say that, the painting there is estimated to be somewhere around 550 AD. I thought my social media was out of date. If you haven't guessed it yet, tonight we're going to be talking about Jesus. We're going to bring some facts, we're going to bust some myths apart, and hopefully have some fun in the process. This evening we have Rachel manning our chat, so please do drop her a hello. And yeah, why don't you drop some comments in the chat, ask some questions, and we'll try to do our best to keep an eye out and answer them as we see them coming through. So, why not begin by having a think about who Jesus is? Let's all close our eyes and try and picture what he looks like. What do you feel like you know him already? What do you know about him already? Some of you might not have heard about him before. Some of you will have heard about him before. Some of you guys will have contained him to just the pages of the Bible rather than a person in history. Asking yourselves, did he really walk on this planet? Or is he just a protagonist in the books? In the Bible, there's many words that are used to describe the character of Jesus, ranging from being compassionate to being a gentle character. So as you keep your eyes closed, imagine meeting him for the first time. Imagine what he might sound like. Imagine what he might say to you and how he might act towards you and others around you. The Bible uses lots of different phrases as well for us to better get to know him, from things like Prince of Peace, Wonderful Counselor, the Good Shepherd, King of Kings. We've explored some of these back when we've looked at joy and love and hope and peace, and you recognise some of those. So hopefully, to get a deeper understanding of who this Jesus character is tonight, I've invited Daniel King here to join us in the studio this evening. Welcome, Dan.
Hi, Adam. Hello, everyone at home. So good to be with you.
It's great to have you here. And I guess let's just start off. Tell us a bit about yourself.
Sure. Well, my name's Daniel, and regulars will know me as husband to Naomi King, who's a regular host and done a few others.
Yep.
And we've also got a son. His name's Caleb. It's his 7-month birthday today, if that's a thing. And
happy birthday.
Yeah, I live in Maidenhead, just down the road from here, work in Gerrard's Cross, not far away. So that's me.
Fantastic. I guess we need to start asking ourselves the question, similar to how we've opened up. What do most people think about Jesus?
Well, I really like that video earlier because it shows, I think, what a lot of people have when they think of Jesus is this picture in their mind of a blonde-haired, blue-eyed, robe-wearing kind of guy. And it really does capture a lot of the myths that people have when they think of him. Another one that's really common, people think of Jesus as a bit boring, like this sort of old-fashioned, religious, grey beard kind of guy, which is, Jesus is anything but boring. And some other people, it's a bit more common these days, think of him almost a bit right-wing, like he loves free markets and low tax rates, and there's definitely no reason to think that particularly.
We're always throwing tables over, just saying.
Exactly. Others still think of Jesus as maybe a bit of a hippie, with that blonde hair, and he's almost a Beatles vibe.
John Lennon style.
Yeah, exactly. So he's definitely not that either. And what I'm really looking forward to with this conversation is a chance to bust some of those myths and instead give people something to put in its place. So a bit of a basics of what Jesus might actually have been like.
Perfect. So let's go back to the start. Who we kind of looked back about who he was, but who is he? Where did he live? And I guess when did he live? What time period?
Sure. So the real basics. He would have lived somewhere between 0 and 40 AD, so sometime in that bracket, give or take a few years. And he would have lived in a place called Judea, which means he was a Jew. And today we know that as Israel, Palestine, just on the east of the Mediterranean. And he was born in Bethlehem, as most people know from the nativity story.
Yep.
And he then grew up in Galilee in a town called Nazareth. And then when he moved on to do his ministry about age 30, he travelled all over what we today call Israel. Back then was known as Judea, and had a few other names. There's Decapolis nearby, and Samaria as well. And he
So
then
all areas in the Middle East, really, just like fairly
exactly.
contained there.
Pretty much what we now call Israel.
Yeah. Amazing. So you know where he lived, you know who he was, and so what do we? Where do we learn about him? So we've obviously got the Bible, but where else do we learn about him as well?
Sure. Well, we obviously learn about Jesus from the Bible. It's the obvious one. We just mentioned that. And you've got in there the 4 Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. And they're really helpful. They give us a great picture of Jesus's life, and we kind of go on a journey with him, and we get to see the sorts of stories that there are. But from a historical perspective, there are other sources outside of the Bible that do tell us a little bit about him as well. So you've got a historian by the name of Josephus, who was a Jewish historian who was writing after AD 70 or so quite close to the time. And there's other historians as well, a guy named Tacitus, who's a very well-known historian, sort of in people who study ancient contexts. He's a particularly prominent one, and he does mention Jesus as well, as do a few other people besides, like Pliny's another person, and there's a lot more. And so I think, to bust another myth, as we mentioned earlier, some people these days do think Jesus maybe didn't even exist, like could possibly be a bit like King Arthur. Maybe he's a myth or a legend. But you can be pretty certain Jesus definitely did exist. One scholar by name of Tom Wright says it's a fact of almost historical certainty that Jesus lived and was crucified. So it's a definite thing.
Great to know that without a doubt. So we know where he lived. Do we know much about him before he had his ministry? What would have he been doing? What might have he experienced during that period of time? Because we know a lot about him. I guess, you know, there's that big gap. We know about him as young baby Jesus, and then there's this big gap, and then suddenly he's in his ministry. He's got his disciples following us around and things like that. What happens in that void?
Sure. Well, you don't know a huge amount. So as you say, you kind of got the nativity stories, and then you've got from his ministry. But we do know he was a carpenter. Yeah. We do know that he had a family, and these sorts of things. By family, I mean brothers and sisters, and a mother and a father. And he was, you know, what we call carpenter is the common translation, but was perhaps something a bit more like maybe a labourer or construction worker.
A tradesman. Yeah,
that sort of thing, and everything that comes with that. So the sort of spends a lot of time outdoors, probably quite hardy, strong, you know, rough hands, that sort of stuff.
Yeah. It seems far more relatable, that sort of Jesus, than, you know, that white-robed, glowing figure Jesus that you get in modern paintings.
So we saw those pictures of a Jesus with long, flowing hair, when in reality we know he was, you know, to our modern eyes would look Middle Eastern, with sort of maybe shorter black hair, with a beard, olive skin, brown eyes, that sort of thing. Yeah. We can't get too carried away picturing him because we can't really know. But a much better guess would be to picture him a bit like that. Yeah.
That's great. So this all happened 2,000 years ago.
Sure.
How is he still a popular figure, a person we talk about up until this day?
Sure. So it's a bit puzzling when you think about it, that there's, I think it's 2.5 billion people or so around the world in the 21st century still model their lives around the teachings of Jesus. And he's a guy who lived as you said, 2,000 years ago in ancient Israel, very different time, very different place. So why on earth do we? It is a really weird thing in some sense, unless what he said about himself was true, because he said that he was the Son of God. And to Christians, that means Jesus was a way of us understanding who God is. So when we look at Jesus, we can see what God is like and how he thinks of us and relates to us and that sort of thing. So that makes Jesus incredibly important, because if he is who he says he is, then it doesn't matter when he lived or where he lived, because he answers one of those really important questions that even today everyone is still asking, which is, if God's real, why don't we know more about him? Yeah. Why doesn't he reveal a bit of himself? Why doesn't he make it really obvious? And Jesus is kind of the answer, exactly. Yeah. Jesus is our way of knowing about God. Yeah. And so I guess to kind of sum up what I was saying earlier is a lot of these myths that you get maybe from pop culture are a really unhelpful way of thinking about Jesus. But instead we can know he was a man of historical, definitely existed. And we can know that he lived in ancient Israel and all that sort of thing. Yeah. And he said he was the Son of God.
Yeah. Fantastic. That wraps nicely into what we're looking at next. And I really appreciate that, Dan. Thank you so much for bringing some words of wisdom there and some really in-depth knowledge as well to, like you say, bust these myths apart, bring, I think, a more relational Jesus to mind. And it's been great to have you here.
Thanks so much. Lovely to join you.
Really appreciate it. Thanks, Dan. So, we've heard a lot this evening from Dan, and hopefully it's helped you get a better understanding of who you know Jesus as. Hopefully it's cleared up some inaccuracies and some confusions that might have been there before. So, we've confirmed that Jesus was a real person, as Tom Wright said, without a doubt. And he walked the earth. And now there's a decision for you guys to make. Do you believe what he said? And when I say that, I mean Jesus claimed to be the Son of God, God in human form. And that was a very controversial remark to make when he made it 2,000 years ago, just as controversial as some people might think now. And to help us understand that, I turned to another author, C.S. Lewis, who's the writer of The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe, along with many other books as well. And he brought, he didn't bring actually, he popularized an argument that Jesus was either a liar, a lunatic, or the Lord. So he was either mad, he was bad, or he was telling the truth. And this is the starting place for considering what Jesus said and do we believe what Jesus said. So Jesus claimed to be God. So looking through the argument, if Jesus claimed to be God but wasn't God, he was in fact not, then he either had to be mad or he had to be a lunatic. So continuing on, if he was neither God nor a lunatic, then he had to be a liar. He had to be a bad man trying to deceive others. And thirdly, to conclude, if he was neither a bad person or a mad person, then that leaves us with the fact that he was telling the truth. And that truth is that he claimed to be God's son. He acted and spoke with authority of God, dying on a cross to save us from death, taking our sin to the grave to grant us a place in heaven. And if we know that Jesus is speaking truth and we believe that he's speaking truth, then all of that is true. And that's why it's such a big deal, because it makes a big impact to our lives. Now, we'll go in depth in future episodes, and you can look back through our previous episodes to get some glimpses at what we're discussing here. But this is just helping you to explore this argument, to explore what Jesus said, whether it was true, and what difference that could make in your life. Now, I believe what he said to be true. And knowing that allows me to have a life-changing relationship with Jesus. I'm not going to pretend that just because I have a relationship with Jesus, because I call myself a Christian, that it makes life easy and hunky-dory. In fact, it really doesn't, and I'd be lying if I said that. But it sure does help getting us through the difficult situations, especially as we reflect upon the last year or so, going through these times that completely is taking all of us by shock. Having a faith to stand upon has sure helped me and my family and my friends get through some of these difficult, challenging times. Now, if you'd like to connect with us, if you'd like to have some prayer, if you'd like to discuss any of this further, would love to hear from you. You could either drop us a comment in the chat box and would get back to you there. If you want to drop us a personal message, then feel free to email prayer@riverchurch.org.uk. We are also on Facebook. You can connect with us there. You can like and follow our page to see what else is going on in our church. But you can contact us through the messaging service there. We're River Church in brackets Thames Valley. Or if you're an Instagrammer, then we have an account there as well, riverchurch.org. And like I said, would love to hear from you guys, answer some questions, pray with you, talk further about this. And also it gives you an opportunity to ask questions that we can explore in future episodes, which leads me on to saying, if that you guys would like us to explore anything in future episodes, this is your space for us to bring some guys in to chat about things, to explore things deeper, questions that you're unsure about. So yeah, please do drop us some suggestions. We'll try and do some of those in the future. And yeah, if you liked what we have here, then feel free to give us a thumbs up, like our page, subscribe to our channel. That will give you a notification when we next go live. And yeah, we're going to be back live in a few weeks' time. In fact, in 2 weeks' time, I'm going to be on holiday, but there'll be something out there for you guys to watch. So I hope that you guys have a fantastic week. It's been great to see you all again. And yeah, I hope you have a fantastic week ahead. See ya. Bye.